Welcome back to the show. There are 41 Broadway theaters in New York City, and did you know it has been said that a handful of them are inhabited by ghosts? In honor of Halloween, I called on my pals Christopher Sieber from the new musical comedy Death Becomes Her and Tim Dolan from Broadway Up Close to get the scoop on some of New York's spookiest theatrical venues. Hi, Chris Sieber.
Hi, Frank DiLella. How are you?
Great.
Yeah?
So great.
I am too.
That I get to hang out with you.
I know, crazy, right? On a beautiful fall day in New York City.
Right?
Right?
So you are in Death Becomes Her
at the Lunk Fontaine Theater. Get your tickets now.
I'm so excited about this show. Safe to say it's the campiest, spookiest, funniest show on Broadway this season, right?
It's a scary, funny, stupid, campy, hilarious, you can't believe what you're seeing show.
Who do you play?
I'm playing, Bruce Willis.
Okay.
I'm
You're Bruce Willis?
Yeah. I'm Dr. Ernest Menville. This is why I have this weird thing on my lip now, but you know, opposite the amazing Megan Hilty, my show wife Jennifer Simard, and the incredible Michelle Williams. I can't believe I get to do this show 8 times a week.
Were you a big fan of the film?
Yeah, I was, and actually I saw it in a movie theater, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing because it was actually the first time like a CGI type thing was done in comedy. Yeah, I was a huge fan of the movie, and it was absolutely ridiculous and absolutely campy. And I think what we're doing at the theater, I don't think it's going to disappoint absolutely anyone. I mean, it's so amazing. It's incredible.
Being that Death Becomes Her is the funniest, scariest. You're beating me to the punch.
I'm trying to. It's almost Halloween.
So being that is the case, I figured I'd invite my friend Tim Dolan
what up?
From Broadway Up Close to give us a tour of the spookiest haunted theaters on Broadway.
I love that more than anything.
Right?
Yeah.
Where should we start, Tim?
So we start in the most random of places, outside of 1411 Broadway.
I don't see a theater.
And of course, no theaters around, but there used to be a theater across the street called the Empire Theater, which is where our first kind of spooky ghost story takes us. If you go back 130 years, the heart of the theater district was here. Our original theater district used to be in Herald Square. We then moved north from Herald Square to Times Square. The prime theater that took us more north now is a skyscraper, like all great things, but it was originally there. So this guy who owned this one was Charles Frohman. He had a brother, Daniel Frohman, who built the Lyceum Theater, which is just up the block. Charles Frohman was an over-the-top showman. The first time Peter Pan had ever been seen on Broadway was across the street at the Empire. 10 years after that, it's now 1915. J.M. Barrie, who wrote Peter Pan, is in London. He sends a telegram to this guy, Charles Frohman, saying, I've worked on a show, it's terrible. Will you come to London, help me fix the show? Charles looks at his assistant, this very large man named John Ryland, who was his right-hand man for everything. It says, book me passage on whatever ship is leaving. I'm gonna go to London. John says, I'm gonna watch over the theater for a month, go to London, I'll see you when you're back. 6 days later, he's locking up the theater and he gets to the top office, Charles's office. The light is on. And John said, that's strange. No one should be in his office. And he opens the door and sitting at his desk is Charles Frohman, his boss. And he's looking at this man who he put on a ship 6 days before this. And he's saying, what? And he said, yeah, no, don't worry about me. Just go downstairs and lock up. Okay. Goes down the stairs, press agent and usher, 2 guys are in the lobby, locking up. And they looked at John and said, looked like he saw a ghost. And he said, no, not a ghost. I just had an entire conversation upstairs with Charles. And they laughed and said, what do you mean? Didn't you put him on a ship? And he said, well, I thought I did. The 3 of them run up the stairs to the 5th floor, open the door, nothing on the desk, all the lights turned off, chair tucked in under the desk. The 2 guys looked at him and said, what's happening? He said, I swear on my life, I just had an entire conversation with someone, at least, who looks like Charles. Next day, John wakes up and gets the biggest shock, flips the New York Times newspaper, and the top headline is, the Lusitania has been hit by a torpedo.
I just got chills.
And the 2
Me too.
the 2 most famous people on the ship, according to the New York Times, are Vanderbilt and Charles Frohman. But till the day he died, he was adamant that he talked to someone in that office who looked exactly like Charles.
Where to next, Tim?
Let's walk up the block, and I'll take you to the Lyric Theater.
Cool.
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child has one of the craziest ghost stories of life.
Awesome.
Right,
let's do it.
Let's do it.
So, Tim, we are now in front of the Lyric Theater, the home of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
It is one of Broadway's oldest theaters. So the main focus of this ghost story is Clyde Fitch. He was the most prolific playwright in the 1890s. In 1909, he writes a play called The City, goes to Europe. He dealt with midsection appendix issues his whole life, and when he's in Europe, one night his midsection's on fire. His appendix bursts and he dies of blood poisoning. Imagine the most prolific playwright who has 4 or 5 shows running on Broadway at any given time, suddenly is dead.
Wow.
And so they had this last play, The City, and they said, let's present it. So December 21st, 1909, the entire cast takes their bow, many curtain calls, people are applauding for this guy, his career, this performance. The cast splits, they go to leave as they're waving to the audience, and out on stage walks Clyde Fitch, who's been dead for 3.5 months, and in front of 1,100 people, puts his arm up, takes a bow, takes a step back and disappears, and 1,100 people in a theater either faint, scream, or fall to the ground. And in Broadway history, and really in the history of ghost stories, it's one of the largest corroborated ghost stories witnessed by the most amount of people of a person known to be dead in a public space.
All right, Tim, I think you have one more theater for us.
If I'm allowed to have a favorite ghost, I think this is my favorite Broadway ghost, Olive Thomas at the New Amsterdam Theater.
Let's go.
Check it out.
Let's go. All right, Tim, we are here, our last stop, the New Amsterdam Theater, currently home to Disney's Aladdin the Musical.
Of course, the biggest show ever here was Florence Ziegfeld, Ziegfeld Follies. In 1952, you have just our superstitious ghost light standing center stage. You have this night watchman, and he says, I turn around, and it was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my entire life. Shooting across her chest is this sash that says O-L-I-V-E, Olive. And in her right hand, she's clutching this blue glass bottle. And we think this is the first ever documented sighting of a woman who appears about once every decade is kind of been the record.
Wow.
They track it down and they believe it is this woman. Olive Thomas was the face of the Follies. In the middle of the night, she had a headache. And instead of reaching for the aspirin, she grabbed a cleaning solution bottle. And when they find her body laid out, this little blue glass bottle sitting next to her head. She's buried just north of the city in Woodlawn in the Bronx. Once a decade, they've seen her throughout the building. They make sure every entrance to the building has a picture of Olive. So when cast signs in for work at Aladdin, the first thing you see is a picture of Olive. You're supposed to say hi to Olive on the way in, good night Olive on the way out. So we encourage all of our audience members seeing a show at the New Amsterdam to say hi to Olive to keep our superstition alive. I hope you've learned a little bit about our Broadway history, a little bit about our Broadway ghosts, and hopefully it'll inform some of your work in Death Becomes Her.
I love this stuff. It's so great.
I love it.
I love old theaters too.
You're prepped to
I'm
spook
totally
the
prepped. Now I'm
cast.
gonna go spook people.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe I'll haunt the theater
Let's
eventually.
go.
So much fun. All right, if you would like to take Tim's Ghostlight Tour and learn more about Broadway's most haunted theaters, head to BroadwayUpClose.com. And I can't wait to see Chris Sieber in Death Becomes Her, which is now in previews and opens on November 21st. All right, that's a wrap for this week's show. Join us next week for more of the best of Broadway, including my chat with Juliana Margulies and Peter Gallagher, the stars of Delia Ephron's memoir turned play, Left on 10. Until then, I'll see you at the theater, and happy Halloween.
We both feel so grateful to tell the story, but then we just have so much fun up there together.
It's probably one of the best roles I've ever been asked to play.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest news and weather updates every 10 minutes and more. We'll see you then.